And in addition to being assigned this case as a homicide investigation, did you take it upon yourself to continue the investigation since the time of the event itself?
I did.
And what have you done since then?
A number of things. Is submitted the evidence we processed through fingerprints, DNA, and I've also monitored the defendant's jail calls, going through his mail, email, and I watched video visitations that he's had with family members.
And do you know how many hours of jail calls you have listened to in this case?
Pretty significant number. It was 16 hours or better. I've listened to every call that's been completed.
I am showing you what has been marked as State's Exhibit 83. Do you recognize that?
I do.
And does it fairly and accurately depict what's contained in that photograph?
It does.
You're on this side of the state, we moved to State's Exhibit 83 with Defense Counsel Protections. Okay.
Submit it.
And Detective, if you would you describe for us what is contained in State's Exhibit 83?
This is a tattoo of a spider on the inside of the right forearm of the defendant.
I'm also showing you what's been marked as State's Exhibit 73, 74, 75. And those have been previously admitted as photographs of someone holding a gun.
That's correct.
Based on those photographs, who do you believe that is holding that gun?
This is the defendant in this case.
And if you wouldn't mind, sir, if you could step down and show the jury what about those photographs lead you to believe that it's the defendant's case.
This particular photograph, this was an image that I had crime scene specialist Jane Vasquez take of the inside right forearm of the defendant. It's a tattoo of a spider on the inside of his arm. And then the other images were images that were taken off of the defendant's computer, where he's holding what appears to be the Jimenez 380. And in this photograph, you can see the legs of the spider tattoo that are not only consistent with the design and color, but also the location of the tattoo that he took of his arm in interview room number 2 at the police department. There's another one. His arm's slightly tilted in this one. You can see the tattoo of the scorpion on the outside of the same arm. And then this is an image of the defendant holding the pistol towards the ceiling. And in this image, you can see what appears to be the left 3 legs of the spider tattoo. Again, consistent with the design, color, and the location of the tattoo that we took of the spider on his tattoo in the interview room. And this image depicts the hole in the ceiling with the quarter placed next to it for size.
And Detective, as part of your ongoing investigation of this case, did you learn that Mr. Daniel had been transported to Brackenridge Hospital on May 20th, 2012?
That's correct.
May I approach the witness, sir? At this time, Your Honor, the state would move to the State's Exhibit 84. Sir, contained in those records is a summary written by a physician from University Medical Center at Brackenridge. Would you read to us that physician's summary?
States the patient is a 24-year-old male who is currently incarcerated for a felony. The patient admits to taking a bag of pills he found taped under a chair in a suicide attempt. He was brought to the University Medical Center Breckenridge Emergency Room on 5/20/2012 for further evaluation. In the emergency room, he quickly decompensated and required intubation and medical ventilation for respiratory distress. In the emergency room, he quickly decompensated and required intubation and mechanical ventilation for respiratory distress. His urine and serum drug screens were negative.
Thank you. Madam Clerk, please.
Yes.
I'm showing you the market statement of 85. Do you recognize that?
I do.
And is that something you created?
Yes.
And do the contents of this disc fairly and accurately depict the call that is recorded on this disc?
It does?
Your Honor, at this time, the statement of commit States Exhibit 85. Okay.
Submit it.
Permission to publish the jury, Your Honor. Specifically, Detective, what's contained on State's Exhibit 85?
It's a call placed by the defendant to his mother from the Travis County Correctional Complex.
What is the date of that call?
April 25th of 2012. Calls initiated at 2014 hours.
2014 hours?
Right. 8:14 p.m.
And Detective, earlier in this trial, we saw a reporting of a visitation between Mr. Daniel and Jenna Phelan. It was a video of a person-to-person visit.
Right.
What was the date, specifically the one where they're talking about sell my story for $100,000? What was the date of that visitation?
April 24th of 2012.
And the recording device in the jail doesn't put a timestamp on the
Right,
recording?
sometimes.
But that would have occurred the day before this call.
Correct.
Anyway, I'm going to email back when I'm waiting to get a pen. But they keep transferring me right before commissary, so I can't even get any commissary. We were going to do commissary tonight, and they transferred me over to the medical. And last week, right before commissary, they transferred me to Del Valley. And so it's like I haven't made commissary every single fucking week because they keep transferring me right on the day.
They do it on purpose. It's a strategic, too, so that you don't have any freedoms. Am I right?
I think so. I don't know. Yeah, because I talked to a counselor, and he asked me if I was the best, and I said yes, of course. And then now I'm in the fucking medical. And I was in the suicide hole for 85 days, 85 hours because I fucking said a joke. So it's just like, you can't tell the counselor anything, basically. Don't complain or anything.
They're all, I mean, what are they, all 12 IQs or what? I mean, what is with the whole, you know, honey, I have no idea the system that goes on, and personally, I think they're just screwing with you, you know? It doesn't matter. I think they personally just screw with I don't think it's particularly one person. I just think, I mean, I remember all the stories my sister would say, and, you know, cops, they all stick together, and they're all crooked. Even my sister and her husband, they're all crooked. You know, they all support each other. They cover each other's rear end. They cover each other's bad deeds. And, I mean, that's, you know, I have firsthand direct knowledge right there that cops are crooked and the district attorney's offices are crooked, and they're all in on it. You know, they all have to sleep together, and all it takes is one good person somewhere along the way with ethics to come forth anywhere, and it will break all that, just like what happened in the Catholic Church. They protected all those priests who were molesting, and now you find, you know, nobody wants to, you know, protect a priest anymore, which is the way it should be. That's the only way to clean out the church, you know?
That's pretty shitty. I have a pencil, but you said I can't send an email back with a pencil because it won't show up very well, so I'm just waiting for a pen. But now I'm in like a crazy... And so I'm waiting to go back to building 12 where I was, which is a lot nicer than where I am now, but I think I'll spend a couple days in a fucking crazy house.
people are in there?
All the mentally ill people.
Christ, Brandon, I cannot believe that. What the? So he asked you if you're depressed? Well, yeah, dickhead. I mean, I'm sitting in jail, you dumbass. What the hell do you think? I'm happy and gay?
I mean, and then I think it was today that I talked to him, and then just an hour ago, because of the fact that he went to the house.
And so you're there right now. You have to sleep in there. Do you share a room with anybody?
No, I don't know, so I think I'll be here for a couple days while I get reevaluated and talk to our counselor, and then I should come back to the 12th, I believe.
Christ, what the hell is their problem? Just to fuck with you. That's all it is. That's all it is.
I'm going to the commissary, so I was going to get a pen and get, soup and everything, but the police will have to be.
Fucking, that's all, you know what, I hope they all get paid back for that. I hope they all fucking get something in their gut. I hate listening to all this with you. I'm sorry, I don't mean to upset you. It pisses me off. I wish there was something I could do. I really do. I get so pissed when I hear that shit. And then I gotta hear from you. I gotta make sure everything's okay with you tomorrow, after your night in there tonight,
And Detective, in that phone call, Mr. Daniel is explaining the basis for his first visit to the health services building. Is that correct?
That's correct.
And what is his explanation of why he got sent to the health services building?
He said it was a joke
And specifically to whom?
to the counselor at the jail.
And just based on his demeanor in that phone call, were you left with the impression that he agreed or disagreed with the diagnosis of depression?
He disagreed.
And he also mentioned, you said it was a joke, but specifically what did he say he was joking about?
About saying that he was depressed.
And he was joking about saying he was going to commit suicide.
Correct.
And in that phone call, Mr. Daniel's mother references her sister and her sister's husband.
Correct.
How is her sister employed?
She is an assistant county attorney in Kansas.
You remember the city?
Talked to Juana, I believe, or something along those lines.
And what does her husband do?
He's a police officer.
Can I approach the witness, Sean? Sir, I'm showing you what's been marked as State's Exhibit 86. Again, you recognize that item?
I do.
And that's something you created based on a reporting of a jail call? And does this reporting fairly and accurately depict the contents of that phone call on March 10th, 2013?
It does.
And I'll state moved to Ms. State's Exhibit 86. Oh, good. Permission? Excuse me. Permission to publish the jury.
Thank you so much.
Do you have a piece of paper with you?
I do. Go right ahead.
All right. With that one, then do you have my letter with you?
I do.
You know that one with the alien face on it?
Yes.
Hold it up to the light at an angle and look on line 3, the very right edge.
At the very right edge.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Hold it up to an angle to the light and kind of till you see something shimmery over there.
I'm holding it up, and on the third line.
Yeah, third line of text. All the way to the right.
I am. I see the word. Are you talking about a word or something?
No, it's not green. But you can only see it if you
Oh, yes, I do.
you can see it.
Yes, I do. Uh-huh.
Okay, there's 3 of those, one on line 3, one on line 9, and then one on line 18.
Okay.
And so right goes down just the line numbers, and you can look them up later. And then the first number equals A, the second number equals B, and then the third number equals C.
Okay.
Yeah, that's cool.
I
And
do.
then,
Okay, second number is A, third number is C.
No, A to ADC.
Okay, A, B, C. Okay.
And it's on line 3, 9, and 18. And that should be
Absolutely. Okay, yeah. Wow.
And then, so on the solution side of that puzzle, on the bottom right, you see that little equation?
Yes.
Okay, so A, B, and C plug into there. And then, so you should just need X and Y. And those are the number of letters in 2 of my friends from childhood. Just the number of letters in their first name. And so
Yeah.
the first one is a friend in middle school that we used to play guitar together and go to movies and stuff.
Yeah.
And then the other one, Y, is before that, we used to write motorcycles together and things like that. Yeah, that goes with. So you got those 2 names?
I do.
Okay. So that's X and Y, respectively. All that written down?
I do. I have X and Y, middle school guitar, Y is motorcycle, and it's the letters of their first name.
Yeah. And so you should have A, B, C, and X and Y. So you should be able to figure out that whole equation.
Oh, wow. Okay.
And then once you have that, then you'll get just one, you should just get one whole number, one integer. And that is the integer into one of the Zen cones. So that book that you sent me?
Yeah.
So look up that cone, and then once you have that, the last little one that starts with 261, that last little grid, 5 by 5 grid.
Yes.
261 is the letter, is the index of a letter into that cone. So 261 and then 14, and then if you write down those letters, you should get 25 unique letters, and then we can use that as our alphabet.
Oh, okay.
So the first one is some letter, but that'll equal A.
Oh, awesome.
Make sense?
It does.
And Detective, what was the date of this particular call?
This was on March 10th of 2013.
And who was he speaking to?
His mother, Mary Odell.
And from the contents of that call, what did you gather? What were they talking about?
He was giving her a code that they could use for a secret alphabet so that they could bypass the security process at Travis County Jail.
And does Travis County Jail have a process of reviewing certain inmates' mail,
They do.
both ingoing and outgoing?
That's correct.
And when he's describing to her to hold the letter up to the light at an angle, what about that particular letter would something be needed to do to make those?
So what he did in this particular instance, he actually drew an image of an alien, but he utilized a shading technique to where when he drew the alien, he actually wrote in letters inside the image itself. And when it was scanned by the Travis County Jail, because it provided with scanned copies, the Xerox machine did not pick up the contrast between the picture and the letters itself. So the letter was able to get through. And then he would explain to his mother how to use those letters on line 3, 9, and 18 then to set up their alphabet.
And so the shading he's not unique to Mr. Daniel. That's a common technique to try to prevent screeners from seeing the contents of letters.
Right. It's not picked up by the Xerox machine. So the letters are able to get out.
Yes. Sir, I'm trading with the Market States Exhibit 87. Do you recognize that?
I do.
Is that a recording you made of a phone call made by Mr. Daniel on March 31st, 2013?
Yes.
All right, let's have a statement of Unit States Exhibit 87. No objection.
Submit.
Permission to tender to the jury, or post to the jury now.
Good night.
And again, Detective, what is the date of this particular phone call?
This is March 31st, 2013, and the call is initiated at 23:06 hours, or 11:06 p.m.
And specifically, who was called?
This is a call that he had placed to his mother, Mary Odell.
One minute left. Did you get my last letter?
I don't, yes, I think I have another letter. Honey, we have 1 minute. Tell me what I need to do on the, I got your letter, and I understand it.
Did you save the envelope?
Yes, I always take those.
Okay, well, in the last one, on the inside of the envelope, try to look, and I never had to look how to find those.
Yeah. Okay.
And then,
And I'll look on there.
okay, and then the other, just save the other letters to ABCXY.
Okay, yep, I got all those, so don't worry about that. Okay, honey, we're going to lose our minute, and yes, I have all of those.
Okay, and the number that the envelope is E, and then so you're just waiting on H and I.
Okay. Okay, that makes sense. So, that's nice. I just, I hate losing our...
Detective, are you familiar with the term murderabilia?
I am.
What is murderabilia?
Murderabilia is a term that identifies collectibles that are related to murders or murderers. And on September 25th of last year, U.S. Senator John Cornyn introduced the Stop and Sell of Murderabilia Act of 2013, which would prohibit murderers from profiting off their crimes and further prohibit them from being able to give artwork or collectibles to others so that they could profit. And there actually was a law on the books in Texas in 1979 that prohibited the sale of murderabilia. However, it was repealed in 1993 under the cover that it violated free speech.
And essentially, there's a market out there of people who want to buy things related to or created by during murders or from murders.
Unfortunately, there is.
And is this market somewhat driven by the crime itself?
It is.
So a more high-profile murder, for instance, will garner more interest than a low-profile murder.
Certainly.
Your Honor, may I approach the witness?
Yes.
Mr. Armstrong, you listed marked as States Exhibit 88. Do you recognize that?
I do.
And is that fair and accurate recording of a phone conversation made by the defendant?
It does.
And Your Honor, the state would move to the States Exhibit 88. Okay.
Submit it.
Permission to publish to the jury, Your Honor.
Good night.
And Detective, what was the date of this particular phone call?
This is December 20th of 2013 at 20:53 hours, 8:53 p.m.
And who are the parties to this phone call?
This is a call that the defendant again placed a call to his mother, Mary Odell.
So this is about 2 months ago?
Right, it was the end of 2013. December 20th of 2013.
And also, I think they're going to make it illegal here in Texas, but I don't think it's illegal in Colorado. We have websites that Murderabilia. Have you heard of that?
No, I never have. I've never heard of that.
So the they have people who want to buy like artwork and things like that from criminals, and so if you put their they'll buy it like specifically custom from you, and they have different websites that you buy it off of.
Huh. We'll look that up and see what it is. So they do have those websites in Texas, and they're trying to get rid of them?
Well, they're trying to make it illegal here in Texas because there are people who are making a lot of money off of this. Because the more famous you were, the more money you make for your artwork. Yeah, so they're trying to make that legal. But I think it might not be illegal in Colorado, or it might be illegal in Gravity or something.
Yeah, interesting. Huh. Yeah, we'll look, I'll look all that up, but I'm more interested in seeing your work because it's really good, So that would be cool. Because I love those handkerchiefs. We have them, and they look good. They're going to look good. And I just wonder if you should try putting lights behind it. So you're using pens now and not just pencil, or you're using pencil too only?
Pen and color pencil. The other ones, I think the first one I did was our color pencil. And then the last couple that I sent, I did an outlined pen, and then I put it in the color pencil. But these ones now, I sit down and draw it like it's I don't know, just draw the detail like it's a pen, like a tattoo or something. And so it's real shaded in and colored just like a real piece of art, not real cartoonish. It's real quality. And then I wrote more techniques and stuff. So it looks a lot better.
So would you want me to send any kind of technique books to you or anything like that? You want me to look on Amazon and send anything out?
No, not right now. I think I'm learning a lot in here.
Detective, in your estimation, how frequently would you check for jail calls made by Mr. Daniels?
It became really apparent early on that I needed to check his jail calls daily, not only to further the investigation, but primarily for the safety of the correctional officers involved, specifically the officers who had to come in contact with Brandon Daniels.
And what about those phone conversations led you to be concerned about the safety of the correctional officer?
Because it had been reported that he had made statements to overtake corrections officer and try to facilitate escape.
And in the, what you estimated, about 16 hours of jail calls you've listened to?
It's approximately 16 hours of jail calls in addition to reading his jail mail, emails, and watching actual video visitations.
And if I include the interrogation by yourself and Detective Robinson, how many times in those jail calls or interrogations does Mr. Daniel express anything that in your estimation would be remorse?
The only semblance of remorse expressed by a defendant in this case throughout the course of the entire investigation is in the interrogation when he makes a statement, "I feel horrible," and that was after being prodded for response by Detective Robinson.
In fact, the first statement, the first time she asked, "How does this make you feel?" his response was, "I feel like my life is over."
Right, to himself.
And then she followed up with, "What about the officer?"
Correct.
And that's the only estimation, your opinion, is listening to all this.
Yes.
I'll pass with this.
Detective Bugent, these jail telephone calls are all recorded. Every jail call going out of the jail that is by an inmate is recorded.
That's correct.
And at the beginning of the phone call, the jail caller and the recipient are notified that the call is going to be recorded. Is that
Right.
correct?
Travis County Jail utilizes the Securus call platform, and at the beginning of the call, there's an automated greeting that says that this call is subject to being monitored and reported on each and every call, as well as video conference call.
So it's no great secret to the inmates. Everybody knows that all these calls are being recorded. Is that correct?
They are told that, both parties are told that at the beginning of each call start.
So the voice, just to make very clear for the jury, the voices on these jail calls are, that we just listened to, are Brandon Daniel and his mother, Mary Odell. Is that correct?
That's correct.
And the jail calls detail basically a series of instructions Mr. Daniels giving openly on that jail call to his mother to help her decipher a code that he's come up with so he can send his mother coded messages. Is that correct?
That's correct. And over time, that's been my experience, that they become a little more relaxed in their conversations with their family.
In fact, the one longer telephone call had very detailed instructions about how you have to look at this particular book, and it's the kid I knew in middle school. They're very detailed instructions, correct?
We did.
And that's because the code is sort of complicated, and there's no other way to get the key to the recipient without telling the key to the recipient.
Well, he indicated at one point that he was going to send a decryptor code through his attorneys to his mother,
Right.
and therefore bypass the legal screening process.
And did the mother ever have any kind of phone call where she confirmed that she had received some kind of decrypted code from someone?
No, she did not.
But you said over time, oftentimes they let the guard down and say more things than they should.
I guess I agree.
I want to change gears a little bit. The incident prior to our primary offense at the Waters Park Apartments,
Yes.
where we understand that Officer Padron responded because of a report of some kind of problem with the car.
A suspicious vehicle with a door left open.
Right. And we understood that car door is the car belonging to Mr. Daniels' roommate Dante. Is that correct?
Correct. It was a Ford F-150, I believe.
Okay. And you're aware, through your investigation, that there was another officer who responded to that incident. Is that correct?
Yes.
And that was Officer Kroger.
I would have a look at the cat call.
Sure. So what you're looking for, the CAD call, is the text messages that indicate what officers do in a brief form.
Right. It'll state the nature of the call, the location, the time, who placed the call. I don't have a copy of it with me up here.
Can I my question?
Yeah.
I'll show you my computer screen.
Okay.
This remind you of what a CAD call was. And this is a page out of your report where you reproduced the CAD call. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Okay. And that CAD call indicates that Officer Kroger responded as well as Officer Padron.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
And Officer Kroger in this CAD call doesn't indicate he talked to anybody or Padron talked to anybody. Is that correct?
Right.
All right.
Right.
Instead, they just said they were not able to locate any information.
Right. They attempted to research the registration on the vehicle, which returned to Kelvin Davis. However, it was not at that location. The address listed on the motor vehicle registration was a different address. So it doesn't indicate whether or not they came into contact with either Kelvin Davis or the defendant in this case. I just don't know.
And have you talked to Officer Kroger about that?
About this particular call?
Yes.
I don't believe so.
Okay. You are aware, though, that Officer Kroger had another contact with. Hold on. Okay. So we know Officer Kroger was there because he entered that CAD report. Now, is it common that two officers will report to a disturbance like this?
It just depends upon the circumstances surrounding it. And if there happened to be another officer that was close by, typically they would check in with them.
So it's not that they would have planned ahead of time, we'll have two folks there, it's just that the report went out, so they just both happened to show up.
Usually they'll send two officers, so one of them indicates that it's code 4, and that there's no need for a backup officer You're wrong.
And it's common when local officers arrive that they visit with one another, isn't it?
Yes.
Okay, back to the jail phone call. So there was an early phone call that we listened to just a moment ago. State's Exhibit 85. This was the jail call on April 25th. Do you recall that?
I do.
You listened to that jail phone. I think you've summarized that in your report. Well, I'm looking at it. In that jail phone call, Brandon Daniel explains he had to go to the health and safety building because of a joke. Is that basically what he said?
Yes.
Or one thing he said?
Yes.
Okay. And that was April 25th?
Correct.
Okay. Now, April 25th was not the date when he had to go to the hospital because of the suicide attempt. Is that correct?
Right. It was on May 20th.
Okay, May 20th was when he went to the hospital. Now, you pointed out a page in the medical records. Okay. Turn around first, the doctor. Okay. Detective, can you see the screen there? And is it clear enough for you to be able to read what's on the screen?
Yes.
Yeah, first, straight here. Okay, so this is the, you'll see at the top, it says discharge summary. You can step down if you want. Okay. Discharge summary, is that correct?
Correct.
This isn't written by law enforcement, this is written by the folks at the hospital.
Medical staff.
Okay. So here it says discharge diagnoses. So that's a diagnosis made by a doctor at a hospital, is that correct?
Some staff at the hospital.
Okay. Typically, is it the doctor who makes the diagnosis or a nurse who makes the diagnosis?
I would assume it's the doctor, but I'm not sure.
But it's not just some clerical word, it's a doctor or a nurse. Okay. Discharge diagnosis 1, unknown drug overdose and suicide attempt. That's the diagnosis, correct?
That's the diagnosis, however, a drug was not detected during the system.
The diagnosis they made is that it was a drug overdose.
Right.
Do you know exactly every drug that was tested for in the drug screen?
I do not.
Okay. They diagnosed a drug diagnosis. They didn't diagnose a fake drug diagnosis. The diagnosis was drug diagnosis.
That's what they understand.
But they indicate unknown drug diagnosis, correct?
Correct.
They indicate diagnosis number 8, depression, correct?
Yes.
Okay. And diagnosis 3, hypokalemia. Do you know what that is?
I do not.
Okay. Because you're not a physician, you're a detective. I'm not a physician either. In the narrative portion of this, it indicates what happened. He was here because it was reported that he'd taken a bag of pills under a chair. It says that in the report, correct?
It says.
Okay. And this is what they say happened in the hospital. In the emergency room, he quickly decompensated and required intubation. You know what intubation is, don't you? Intubation is where they stick a tube down your nose. Is that correct?
Right.
And is that to feed a person or to
Open up the airway.
open up the airways? Is that a painful procedure or a comfortable procedure?
It depends if you're conscious or not.
Okay. So
I'm sorry, it depends.
It depends on whether you're conscious or not.
Thank you.
and they didn't make him unconscious to go through this procedure, did they?
I wasn't there. I think so.
Required intubation, so it wasn't just, we thought it'd be fun to intubate him, it was required intubation, that's what the report says.
They felt it was necessary.
And it was important to mechanically ventilate him, so to actually inflate his lungs for him.
Yes.
For respiratory distress, correct? Okay.
Yes.
That's their treatment course, correct?
That was, yes it was.
Okay. His urine and serum drug screens were negative, so they didn't find drugs on the urine or on the blood, correct?
Correct.
Okay. But on EKG, he did have widening of his QT interval and QTC up to S33, 533. Do you know what that all
I
is?
don't.
Okay, fair enough. Good luck to you. Okay, what page is this, Brad?
Page 2.
Let me say the very bottom.
Page 2 of 474.
This is page 2 of 474.
Yes.
Is that correct? All right. So go back up to the top here. So this is earlier on in the medical records, where actually, if you go to the previous page, Brad, so because this is a continuation, and I just want to be able to see what that's a continuation of. Sorry. Okay, so this indicates the admittance diagnosis. That's what DS means, right?
Yes.
Okay. Reason for visit diagnosis and then final diagnosis. There are different sections, correct? Okay, so part of the final diagnosis, the principal final diagnosis, poisoning by other specified drugs.
All right.
So they don't know what drug, but their diagnosis is that it was poisoning, right?
That's what they indicated.
That's what they say. Secondary, acute respiratory failure. That's their diagnosis. Non-specific abnormal EKG or ECG. And that's his heart rate, correct?
Yes.
Okay. And the heart rate was abnormal.
Elevated, I believe.
Okay. And their diagnosis, part of the secondary diagnosis, is suicide and self-inflicted poisoning by other non-specified drugs or other specified drugs, correct?
That's what was reported.
That's what's diagnosed, not just what's reported. Is that accurate?
That's what it states.
That's right. Accidents occurring in residential institutions, because this was in jail, correct? Okay. Altered mental status is what they said, right? Brad, you can go to the next page. And then it appears that this is continued on the next page.
Yes.
At the very top, it says tachycardia unspecified.
All right.
And tachycardia is an increased heart rate, is that
Yes.
correct? And hypopotasemia. Does that have something to do with a person's level of potassium in the blood?
Yes, it does.
So, fast heart rate and low level of potassium in the blood, correct?
Yes.
And is it your position that he's faking his elevated heart rate?
I just know that they did not detect a drug in his system or his urine or his blood.
Was it your opinion that he was, or is it your position that he was faking his respiratory distress that they had to intubate him for? Okay. Is it your position that he's faking this lowered potassium level in his blood?
I don't know what would cause that.
They also indicate that a couple of other things that are less germane to our situation, except they do indicate depressive disorder not elsewhere classified. That's a good thing.
Yes.
Okay, one more thing, this is page 9. I'm sorry, let me just take it up. Again, on page 9, they indicate drug overdose, attempted suicide, and major depression. That's what they indicate in their reports.
Yes.
And they don't just say episodic depression, they say major depression.
It says major depression, is what it says.
Detective, toward the end of one of the telephone calls, or the last telephone call, in fact, is it your recollection that Mr. Daniel was talking about the artwork at the end of that last telephone call on 12/20?
Yeah, I don't think there was any question about that.
And they were talking about art techniques, colored pencils, pens, that type of thing, is that correct?
Right, she was asking if he wanted her to send her some books.
And he said, not now, because I'm learning watching here. Is that correct?
Yes.
And does that indicate to you that he's got an awful lot of time to sit around and do artwork?
That and play cards.
And Detective, if I could refer you to the phone call made on December 20th, 2013, prior to that portion of the call that you made the snippet recording for, did Mr. Daniel and his mother have a specific conversation about the fact that he had already sold artwork in the jail?
Yes.
And did he indicate how much he sold it for?
I indicated that the inmate had offered him $30.
And after he said that, what was the next thing he said to his mother?
I indicated that he had never heard of anyone being able to sell their artwork for that much money.
And so he had to do it.
So you made another copy. So you made a copy of the one that he sold.
Sir, I apologize. I'm going to have to object to the narrative portion. There's been no question answered, and Mr. Hughes just volunteered.
Specifically, Detective, after he talked about no one having sold anything in jail for $30, he said he had to do it just for the bragging rights. Is that correct?
He did.
I'll pass it.
Colonel Passman, similar.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Ladies and gentlemen of the jury, we are going to recess for lunch. I'm going to recess you until 1:30. You are in recess.